Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to our Titanic deck tech video. Today, we're going back to Rogues, Anowon the Ruin Thief, and company. This is a great commander I stumbled upon. I really loved Rogues, They were just always very powerful. Arnie Huschenbach won a championship with this, and Standard a couple years back did so with those, very strong Rogues that were just kind of printed, I think, in the core sets. And I believe in Zendikar, there were some decent ones as well. So without further ado, we got a Dimir commander here, a 2 colorless, 1 blue, 1 black, legendary creature, a vampire rogue. It's a tribal commander, so it gives all your other rogues +1/+1. Now the real kicker. Whenever one or more rogues you control deals combat damage to a player, that player mills a card for each 1 damage dealt to them. If the player mills at least 1 creature card this way, you draw a card. So you really want to spread out your damage. And basically, if they mill a card when your opponent mills a creature card, you get to draw a card from that. And no more than one card for each opponent. So there you go. And it's got a pretty decent body, a 2/4. So, I mean, you just put a surprising amount of damage. You can just see, like, really what we value here is these 1-drop, rogues are very good. The 1 and 2 spots are pretty heavy, right? And usually there's some sort of evasion aligned with them. For instance, this 1/1 Tiny Bones, which is a newer one from Outlaws of Thunder Junction, is a skeleton rogue. It has Death Touch, which is nice. You also can get a little bit of value from it, where if you deal combat damage to a player, you cast a target non-land permanent card from that player's graveyard. So it really works well with Anowon. We're going to be juicing up our opponent's graveyard and getting some value from there. And we can have some selection too, which is always nice. Another new card from Outlaws of Thunder Junction is Double Down. This one's seen a little bit more like, kind of spike on, in price-wise in recent days, I believe. And I think it's mostly because of the Assassin's Creed, right? But this one's even nice for our rogues where, we just cast one of our spells and we can copy that rogue spell, for instance, and have another copy of it. So what a fantastic card. There's a couple cards I really want to go over to kind of illustrate what Anowon is all about and kind of give you an idea of the power level. We're dealing with a very high-powered commander here, and it really enables a lot of tutors, enables you to do a lot of silly things. So for instance, a card like Scheming Symmetry is really good because we can go ahead and put something on the top of our deck, and then our opponent will put on something on top of our deck. And then when we do combat damage to them with one of our evasive rogues, they'll have to mill that card they selected, so they don't get to tutor for anything. So we can kind of ensure that they don't get anything and we get a free tutor. And if we connect and we draw a card from that, which we usually do, we usually draw a couple cards per attack phase, then we're going to get that card that we wanted. So really strong 1-mana tutor there for us. Just basically goes right to our hand without any penalties. A card that we would love to tutor for is a Teferi, a Temporal Pilgrim. This card is our primary win con, I'd say. It is probably up there. This is the card that we want to tutor for in that Scheming Symmetry or just draw into. Why is Teferi so good here? Because we're going to draw so many cards. We're going to draw so many cards that will make your head spin. This is if you really like to just touch your library and just start peeling off lots of cards at once, this is kind of the deck for you. There's just a lot of cards to be had, and it's very easy to get to that ultimate, that -12. And then all of a sudden, we're ultimating on our opponents and they're having no permanence in their hand. Basically, the ultimate here is target opponent chooses a permanent they control and returns it to its owner's hand. So they get to bounce something back to their hand. Then they shuffle each non-land permanent they control into its owner's library. So they just lose their board state, but they get to keep a card from their board that was a non-land permanent. So what an amazing card. You can go ahead and make that spirit token if you want and make a bigger creature. You can just play the +0 and draw a card, and that will put a loyalty counter on Teferi. So an amazing planeswalker for us in general here. Additionally, a card like Mystical Tutor is fantastic, right? Because once again, we're having lots of card draw, and Anowon just enables that card to be drawn in our turn step. So, also just another very versatile card where maybe we can even tutor for a Scheming Symmetry so we can go get a Teferi in a turn cycle. Or, maybe we need to get into a pinch or maybe want to do something fun, find a knowledge exploitation with that Mystical Tutor. you know. And then we're playing this for reduced cost after we'll deal damage. And then we get to go into our opponent's library and search for their fun stuff. So, hey, that sounds good to me. Sounds really good. So there's knowledge exploitation. And then we're back to double down. So there we go. We'll just keep Anowon at the top here because Anowon is kind of the juice here. It's gonna enable us to just draw all those cards, really, you know, kind of get our opponent's graveyards juiced up and find some stuff in there as well. So let's go over some staples here. There's some really nice ones. Some that you might be familiar with. Just, of course, the bitter blossom is just really great for us. Just producing all those rogues on our upkeep step. 1/1 flyers. We love the flying because it's just more evasiveness. And it's just that continual, like, kind of rogue production we really like. Another crazy card with Anowon is a Bloodchief's Ascension, where we just get this down in an early cycle, accrue those 3 life. Basically, you get a counter on this each time an opponent loses 3 life. And then when you have 3 or more quest counters on it, a player will lose 2 life, and we will gain 2 life for each card put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere. So, man, these rogues get really nasty, and I swear they do lots of damage. They put up lots of damage. So, you know, we have like a couple rogues that can really put some damage on. You know, like we have the we'll get into that, but there's one where it's like sees all the types in the graveyard. So that one could like put up a lot of damage and, you know, have an opponent mill about 8 cards into their library or into their graveyard at once. So then you have like a lot of damage put on by the Bloodchief's Ascension. You get 2 life loss for them, and then it's a good source of life gain. We get 2 life for each of those things built into the library or graveyard from their library. So, whew. Another sweet card is this battle here. Invasion of Amoket. So there's that. And yeah, this is just another super value card where, you know, people are putting cards into their graveyard, and then they're also discarding and we're drawing. So there's lots of value here. And then we defeat this battle. We get to create this Lazotep zombie. So there's that. And it's a 4/4, and it can enter as a creature card in any graveyard, except it's a 4/4 black zombie in addition to its other types. So just a lot of value from that. Demir card for us kind of enables all those things that we want. Really works well with like a Bloodchief's Ascension too. All right, let's keep going. So now we're getting into our 1 mana plays. We have a lot. I mean, we already went over Tiny Bones, but these are just all our evasive rogues. Like Prickly Bogart is very good. It has Sphere, so I believe it can only be blocked by artifact creatures and black creatures. So it can get into some opponents pretty easily. What a nasty little guy that is. Slitherblade just can't be blocked in general. What a fantastic 1-drop. We love that. Thieves Guild Enforcer, kind of one of those OG kind of cards that you maybe recall from Standard, you know, from a couple of years back. And this one's just really nice because it will get those graveyards again kind of juiced up. And a lot of our cards are enabled when our opponents have cards into their graveyard, and usually the criteria is 8. So the Thieves Guild Enforcer gets a little buff. There's a couple of other creatures that we have, and of course we have Drowned in the Loch, which really benefits from that as well, from a high count of cards in our opponents' graveyards. Here is the Forsaken Miner. New card from Outlaws of Thunder Junction. I really see this good, like in probably the beginning part of the game. It would be like a nice 3/2 with Anowon. Will be something that maybe, you know, people don't want to block. Additionally, this would be also a good target to sacrifice with Rankle. I was always kind of looking for a good target to sacrifice with Rankle, and I think this is a good option because we will be committing crimes. We have counter spells. We have some removal here and there, spot removal. So I think that will be a good choice for us. Additionally, I have the Changeling Outcast. This thing can basically morph into that rogue type. It can't block or can't be blocked. Fantastic. Merfolk Windrobber. This is just that nice flying rogue for that 1-drop spot. So once again, some evasiveness. Not unblockable, but a flyer, and has a little bit of a benefit. We can draw off of this, and if an opponent has 8 or more cards in the graveyard, so a little bit of a bonus there. And then the Triton Shore Stalker. Triton Shore Stalker can't be blocked. That's a 1 cost too. It's a 1/1 fantastic Merfolk rogue. Fantastic. All right, so we have some really nice one drops there. Probably can maybe even go for another one, to be honest. There's another Menacey one that just came out, but we have so many good two drops that it's kind of, you know, hard to pass up. So we have like the Soaring Thought Thief. That is the one that benefits from more cards in our opponent's graveyard. That 8 or more criteria than rogues get 1/0. It's a flyer. Whenever one or more rogues you control attack, each opponent mills 2 cards. Metallic Mimic, so that's that changeling. It's going to buff up all our rogues that enter the battlefield. Once we name this on rogue, it will become a rogue itself. So it's just kind of a nice little tribal artifact, and it's easy to cast with a 2 colorless. Ona's Blackguard, this is a fantastic rogue. This is the one where I believe when a creature with a 1/1 counter and deals damage to a player, that player discards a card. And, you know, we're just putting, you know, we have that, like the Metallic Mimic kind of thing that puts the counters on. And you can also see that Ona's Blackguard puts counters, 1/1 counters on creatures as well. And they enter the battlefield, the rogues. So some nice synergy there. Here's Sig. This is the creature that at the beginning of each end step, and if the opponent loses 3 or more life this turn, you may draw a card. So that's fantastic as well. So lots of chances for drawing cards. Lots of card draw here. Variant Mastermind, another nice one from, I believe this is from March of Machine. There's the Yuta Takahashi profile card. And it is fantastic here. It's just really great in Commander too, where people are like drawing abundance of cards, and we have more opportunities to draw cards when they draw extra cards. So there you go. Here's a Dothi Voidwalker. It's a 3/2, and it's the 2 black, so it's a little harder to cast onto than some other cards that we have, but it's still a phenomenal card. It also benefits very well in our deck. It's not a non-combination because we're still going to get those mills. It's not like those cards aren't milled with the Anowon, so we still get those creature triggers if the opponent does mill a creature. So that's nice. It doesn't, but those cards do go into exile with Dothi Voidwalker on the battlefield, so that's good to know. Also, we can just go ahead and sacrifice the Dothi Voidwalker to choose an exile card an opponent owns with a void counter on it, and you may play with this turn without paying its mana cost. What a phenomenal card. Nice body there too, and it can't be blocked or be blocked by only creatures with shadow. Fantastic. Here's Mercurial Spelldancer, and this is just one of those other really awesome rogues that can't be blocked. And we play an abundance of instants and sorceries, so it'd be really nice to, like, you know, cast off a knowledge exploitation and double that one up. I can see that as a great target for this. And then we can really, like, you know, kind of get into our opponent's stuff even more, you know. So I love this one anyways. I've always liked this card a lot. Here's a Thieving Skydiver. This one's really good at, like, stealing mana rocks and such. You know, really punishes our opponents for, you know, getting their soul rings out, and, you know, we can take those soul rings from them and such. Maybe any of their other beneficial artifacts. So we like this Thieving Skydiver very much. Here's the Frog Tosser Banneret. We just love this because it does have haste, so that's a really, like, kind of sneaky one about this. Like, it can just get weaponized immediately, like on an Anowon turn. Like, you can cast a Frog Tosser and then go right into Anowon, and then you can already be swinging with a Frog Tosser. And then it's just going to make your goblins and rogues one less to cast too, so it's really fantastic. A little cost reduction there, right? So there's Thada Adele. This one's also very good for, you know, it can basically get into our opponents that have islands. It has the island walk, and then we can go ahead and search their library for artifact cards and may play in that turn when it connects. Fantastic rogue. Here's the Glasspool Mimic. This will just copy all of our rogues that we have on the battlefield that are already there. It kind of gives us some versatility because we have a lot of value with our rogues. Even it would be nice to, like, copy a Spark Double with that, you know. Here's Nighthawk Scavenger. This is the one I had mentioned that can just put out a lot of damage. It just kind of registers all the different card types and are among cards in our opponent's graveyards, and it gets a plus buff for that. So it's just a nice flyer with Death Touch and Life Link. So we like that. Black Market Connection. That one's just a nice, really nice one. Could be a great one turn one play with, like, a Dark Ritual. Whew, that could be really good, guys. You know, and then we're just creating, like, a rogue, and we're drawing, and we're creating a treasure and getting ahead that way. It's just a lot of value. Perfect for us. Here's the Brazen Borrower. Fantastic interactive piece where, you know, it can just return any non-land permanent opponent controls to its owner's hand, and also get on the offensive with its flash flying ability and can kind of get in there and start hitting the opponents. Here's a Grim Hireling. This just creates an abundance of treasure. It encourages us to swing on multiple opponents, which we like to do anyways, and then we can get ahead with some mana and treasures. Also has that sacrifice X treasures ability where that could come in handy too, if you want to interact with your opponent's creatures. And then you have Spark Double. And Spark Double is also very good too, right guys? And this could go on our commander, this could go onto our Teferi. It could copy creatures or planeswalkers, and they'll come in with additional 1/1 counter it or an additional loyalty counter on it if it's a planeswalker. So a lot of versatility there. We love copying Anowon and getting like kind of double the value from it, no doubt. Same with Sakashima. This is a human rogue also, just in general, so it's kind of interesting. But yeah, we can go ahead and copy any creature, and of course it can get past the legend rule, so we love that. Here's a Stink Drinker Baton. This is like basically the rogue Embercleave, because you're connecting a lot, you're getting offensive, you're being evasive, and then all of a sudden you can play this thing for a prowl, and it really incentivize your opponents not to block, because if they block, whenever a rogue you control attacks and isn't blocked, well, actually it incentivizes them to block, because if it's not, it gets 2/1. Oh my God! So it's a lot crazier. So I mean, they're so evasive anyways, and like you can see, like they're just gonna get that 2/1, and it's so much damage. With Anowon on the battlefield too, it's just like an additional +1/+1. So your rogues are hitting so hard. This one's a nice one too, Zerasan. So that's I'd say that's more at the 4 spot than like the 5 spot. So Zerasan is cool because, we have like these cheaper rogues. We can go ahead and bounce them back to our hand and basically ninjutsu this and get value from our opponent's graveyard. We could have a free cast if Zerasan connects with that ninjutsu. So that's pretty sweet, right? So we can get into like maybe some great henges or something that's really nice permanent in our opponent's graveyard, maybe a creature. So there's that. And so let's go over some of the way that we get into cards here, because cards are very important for us. Other than having Anowon, provide us a lot of cards, we have some rogues that do that too, like a Morbid Opportunist. Whenever one or more other creatures die, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. And this also works very well with our pitch cards, because we're going to be drawing so many cards that we're going to be able to pitch them. So, I mean, we have that ability where we can just, pitch cards, and it'll be great. So just with that abundance of cards, we're just really kind of benefiting from that. Come here, Rocky. Come here, buddy. Chill out, man. His sister's getting groomed right now outside. It's in a mobile groomer, so he's getting a little crazy. So here's the One Ring, and this is one of the better sources of card advantage in general. And of course, we're going to be playing it because we just want to draw lots of cards. It's really important for our Teferi to kind of ultimate. We want to kind of get into those cards. Like I said, we're going to be pitching cards like for March of Swirling Mist and such, and our Force of Will. So we kind of need those. We need as many looks as card as possible. Here's Kindred Discovery. So whenever we name a creature type like Rogue, whenever a rogue attacks, we get to draw. And or whenever they enter the battlefield, we draw. So it's really crazy. Woo! Crazy stuff, guys. All right, and this is like Takanuma. This just like lets us get into our graveyard. It's kind of some form of card advantage for us. It can also be a land, which is nice. Here's Teferi's Ageless Insight. So whenever we draw a card, except the first one you draw in each of your draw steps, draw 2 cards instead. So that's lots of cards too. So after, when those Anowon triggers happen, we're going to keep, drawing cards, an extra card for each of those cards we draw. So lots of cards. Here's Binding of Thassa. Whenever a creature controlled deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. Creatures your opponents control attack this turn if able. So that's nice too. Where we can just make our opponents attacking to something and then open them up fully. So really cool, versatile card there. And of course, we just love that combat damage to a player we draw. We're very evasive, so we're going to get those cards. Lord and Reveal, just a nice, cool tech card. Go ahead, fetch an island if we really need to, or draw 3 with it, you know, later on. We want to draw, of course. Here's Gix. This is an interesting one where we end up with like a decent amount of mana because we'll have decent land ramp here for a black deck as well. So we can foresee drawing so many cards. We don't care about like, you know, discarding like 7 of our cards because we're going to have like 10 to 12 cards in our hand like at all times. And that's a serious statement. So we can always just go ahead and just discard X cards and then go ahead and get some of those play lands and cast spells from among those cards exiled this way without paying their mana costs. Also, of course, whenever a creature of ours deals damage to an opponent, we can pay a life. If we do, we draw. And that's also for any of our creatures on the battlefield that deal damage to our opponents. So our opponents will also benefit from that, and also they won't be swinging on us. They'll be incentivized to swing on other opponents. But they will get cards from it, so it is a little bit of a riskier card, but it is very fun. Here's a Ristic Study, kind of like a very group huggy kind of card, to be honest. All right, here's Ristic Study. And, I mean, get this thing out early enough, you're just drawing. No one's going to be paying the ones, like, they got to do other stuff. They got to cast their own spells, so you're just going to be, you know, you're going to be netting cards off this in an early turn cycle. And then Seagate Restoration, that will get us into some cards too, or act as a land. So lots of ways to get cards in this deck, so that's really nice. So additionally, here's our land ramp here. So we have Arcane Signet. That's just like kind of an OG one. You know, we're not playing in green, so we have to kind of get creative with our mana rocks. So we have like a Dowsing Dagger. We have so many evasive creatures. Slap this onto one of our unblockable creatures. They slap in, and all of a sudden we make a rainbow land, you know. All of a sudden you have this sweet, sweet land here. Add 3 mana of any color to your mana pool. It's just fantastic. Then we have Dark Ritual, the aforementioned like turn 1 Black Market Connection, fantastic. War and Power Stone, just another like kind of a Soul Ring option, just some nice ramp for us. Oof, we just love this, you know. It's a little more than Soul Ring, but it comes in the battlefield tap, but it just providing that 2 colors at that 3 spot, we just love it. Wayfarer's Bauble. Also good, like, kind of gets us into like a turn 3 Anowon, which is nice. We're not going to hate that. We really won't. Then we have the Soul Ring. So that's fine here. Love Soul Ring. It's, of course, a great card. Springleaf Drum. Also will allow us to tap some of our creatures for mana in the early sequencing. So we like that as well. A little bit of ramp. Felwar Stone. Just some nice options here. Nice color, so you can't go wrong with this stuff, guys. You cannot go wrong. Just easy mana, just producing mana right the turn they come out too. Same with Talisman of Dominance, fantastic. We got into our ways of that we're gonna like keep our hand size nice, right? So Thought Vessel, you have no maximum hand size, fantastic. Add 1 to your mana pool, perfect. Now we're gonna get into some of our counter magic. So here we go. Here is Mana Drain. So Mana Drain is just that nasty two blue spell that will let us create a lot of mana on our main phase, depending on, you know, the value of the card that we've countered. So we're looking for a juicy one there, maybe an early sequencing like a 4 mana commander, and then all of a sudden we have 4 colors in our main phase. It's really good. Offer You Can't Refuse for that nice catch-all for any non-creature spell that the opponent would create 2 treasure tokens off of that, but it just is a nice catch-all for us. Flare of Denial, we will have some nice blue creatures. Sometimes it'll be little blue things, little blue creatures out there. So Flare of Denial is a perfect, that is from the newer set. So I should have featured that on the thumbnail, but yeah, we have Flare of Denial too, which is great. Here's Force of Will, fantastic card here as well. I mean, we'll be having so many cards, it'll be so easy to pitch cards. So there's really no problem, you know, of doing that. You know, finding a blue card and pitching it for countering a spell without paying any mana costs. That's crazy. There's Agadeem's Awakening, and yeah, that one's just going into our graveyard and bringing back some of the rogues that we may have lost along the way. A little more recursion here with Malika Rebirth can also be a land, so we love these lands that can kind of have both modes. They're the best cards in our deck. March of Swirling Mist is like my MVP of the month, and I will never forget about you again, March of the Swirling Mist. You're a fantastic card, and this is like, it's worth its weight in gold. It can protect your stuff. It can also remove your opponent's things from the battlefield for a turn cycle, so you can swing for lethal. It just does all those things, and it can be played at that 1 blue cost where you're just pitching cards from your hand. You know, it's like such a very secret and evasive card, and I hate playing against it, and I love playing with it. Memory Lapse is actually a perfect counter spell for our deck. It has a generic mana cost, so it's much easier to cast. And what's great about Memory Lapse is it will counter something and it will swing on the opponent the next cycle with Anowon. They'll have to mill the card. Ooh, it's a nasty guy. So there's Memory Lapse. Ooh, badass here. Here's Otawara. So there's the Otawara, the channel land. So we're getting into our interactive pieces. So, you know, this one will bounce or be played as a land, bounce a permanent. Then we have Deadly Rollick, which is good when our commander out. It's a free cast to exile a target creature. It's the mass board wipe here with Blood on the Snow. We'll play some snowlands just for that. Sounds great. Rankle, the Master of Pranks, a more interactive piece here. We'd go with that nice miner in that one spot we have now. The team will have a nice tag team, and then we'll be sacrificing things. Opponents will be sacrificing creatures. We'll be discarding. We'll be drawing. We'll be doing all that stuff at once, and we just love Rankle, of course. Just always works so well in all the decks I like to play. Here's Drown in the Lock for that nice interactive piece where it could be a counter spell, or it could be a removal spell for a creature based on the number of cards in their graveyard. It's really, really cool. So, for instance, if they have 7 cards in their graveyard, we could counter a 7-mana spell, but nothing more than a 7 mana, right? We couldn't destroy anything more than 7 mana if they didn't have more than 7 cards. So that's how that card works. Fantastic. Then we have just our basics here. They just go through here. We have like our snowlands, so pretty good stack there. And then, of course, we have like some nice kind of duels here. Just kind of going through. We have a Secluded Courtyard. That's a nice one for our rogues to name rogues. And then all of a sudden we have like another duel in for our rogues. So that's fantastic, right? Ice Tunnel for a little bit of action there. I will probably get the Surveil land too for the blue-black Surveil land. I'll have to get that one. That's a nice choice. Faceless Haven, that can be turned into a rogue for that 3 snow cost. So that's really cool. Watery Grave, Command Tower. I'll probably have to put a Polluted Delta in here. So there's definitely some upgrades that I've kind of, you know, found that I can recognize just going through this and revisiting this deck. So there's, I probably can, like, for instance, drop like a Fabled Passage and get our mana a little bit better here with, like, for instance, a Polluted Delta. So, and also those Surveil lands are very cool too. So the MO of this deck is just lots and lots of cards, okay? So that's kind of like what we're looking for here, was just have these really nice interactions with our commander. Just, ooh, Tiny Bones, so good. And we're just going to be getting into lots and lots of cards and getting lots of choices to do with things. So very cool deck. I love the rogue kind of philosophy. Just very evasive, very tempo orientated. I really feel like the real star of this is the Teferi. For real. I mean, this card seems really busted too. Honestly, it seems really overly busted for this deck. But yeah, Bloodchief's Ascension, because we mill so many cards into our opponent's graveyard. So I mean, that thing's gonna get activated, and we're gonna be gaining a ton of life, and they're gonna be losing a ton of life in the process. So yeah, there's all that. Yeah, I like the amount of kind of mana that you can produce on this one too. So yeah, Dousing Dagger's an all-star in this deck too. Really, it is. And I had like the you know, I had some like the extra turn spells. Like there's another Prowl card that's called like something like I think I have it here, but I've kind of moved away from that because I just didn't like it in my casual pods. It just kind of like was just ended the game like quicker than it should have. You know, finding like being able to like use like a mystical tutor to like find this thing. And honestly, this deck isn't casual anymore. It's not even close. It's got way too many pitch spells, so that's, I mean, I'd have to play this in like I do have like some people that I play with that, you know, can play up in power. So, and even their casual decks are a little higher than not. So I think I'll still be good. But this card was just like kind of dumb to play, like, you know, where you're just like, you know, finding it with your mystical tutor, and then all of a sudden you're paying like 6 to have an extra turn, and like, you know, you're creating like 14 rogues because you deal 14 damage in a turn cycle and you have an extra turn, and then you're just winning. So yeah, the extra turns are really kind of toxic, like for me. It's just that maybe they're not toxic, but I feel like they're just kind of maybe too strong, you know. But I really do like Teferi. I really do like this card a lot. I feel it's like a really cool card to build around. The -12, target opponent chooses a permanent they control and returns it to its owner's hand. Then they shuffle each non-land permanent they control. Really nasty against like Jund decks that can put a lot of value on the battlefield. For instance, like lots of treasures and lots of really cool like artifacts and enchantments that gain value, right? And then all of a sudden they have to lose all those things. It's really like kind of like a heart stabber, you know. So it's a very interesting card, and I really enjoy it. So there's Anowon. I hope you guys enjoyed that little kind of revisit there. I sure did. I hope you have a wonderful Sunday. Goodbye.